What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? We are on the Real Talk Car Show with the Car Man, and we do this every day at 5 o'clock and Monday through Friday. So please tune in if you haven't, and if you haven't had a chance to subscribe, I really wish you would. It'd be great for us. Today, we're going to be talking about building some real value when you're trying to sell a car. Which is going to be the walk around, which is pretty interesting. A lot of people fail at this level. They don't really understand its value or what it's designed to do. But today we're really going to get into that. Meanwhile, I do want to suggest to you, if you get an opportunity, shop our Amazon store because it rocks. It's going to be on the description here. And looks like I'm going to probably do a continuation into this saga is going to just keep going for tomorrow. All right. Meanwhile, how's up, everybody? What's up, peeps? So today we're going to be dealing with the walk around, the walk around, the walk around, the walk around. So yesterday, if you watched the show, we basically got you down to the meet and greet. And where I left you off is you've selected two cars, but now the third car is there, and this is the one you're going to try to land your customer on, and you're going to try to sell. Does everybody remember that? Probably not. Sorry, throat's a little dry. Okay, so today we're going to go ahead and get into this. So, what is the real purpose and the value of the meet and greet? I'm sorry, meet and greet. We already know what that is. What is the real purpose of um, the walk around? Well, it's to build value. I mean, this is the point. You've already kind of built a little bit of rapport with your customer on the meet and greet, which is cool. We need that. We need to have them feeling good about you. You need to feel good about them. We've done a little pre-qualifying. But let's be honest, you've got to have something that they want at this point, because the rest of it's just conversation. If it isn't something they want, you've got nothing to offer. You've got nothing, no way to get money from them if they don't want what you got. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing I can say, if you're a new car salesperson, is it's all the little it's the courses you need to take about the individual cars. But there's a few basic things that you should know about every automobile before you attempt to sell it. One would be some basic safety stuff, like where the crash zones are at in the front, any of the little safety features, side airbags, whatever. How to escape out of the trunk, where the release is at, how to do the filter, the oil, that kind of stuff. Does it have a timing chain, timing belt, all those little things like that. And of course, all the product features on the inside, gas mileage, horsepower, that sort of thing. Why do you need to know all this? And I know a lot of people sell cars and they're like, oh, well, they'll either like it or they won't. Well, that's true, but you'd be surprised at what resonates with people as far as their thought process when they buy a car. So if you say, hey, this is a V6, however, it gets 32 miles to the gallon, they might have been at your competitors, and the competitor might not have told them what theirs got, or it might have got less. And so you're the only person that told them that your car gets good gas mileage. So this is why this is going to be relevant. This is why this little information. And as I take you through the walkthrough or the walk around, I'll give you some definite points of what would work for just about any car, but you could kind of take your own specific vehicle or situation and kind of customize it for what you need to do for it. All right. So first thing I'm going to tell you is education, education, education. Know some stuff about your car. All right. So when you first get to your car, you have a set pattern in which you want to control the customer's movement on the car. The reason is at the end of building value to this car, you've got to have a test drive. The meet and greet has got to end up in the customer in the driver's seat going for a test drive. If you don't test drive the car, you don't sell it. If you do, you didn't sell it for the right amount of money, or it's going to be a really hard close. It's hard to sell somebody something they don't drive. And the way to get them to drive the car is the walk around. So, how I do it, this is me personally, it's how I trained all my people to do it. So, if you are in the front of the car, always pop the hood, start there. And you start with some of the really obvious. I usually pick out two pretty cool safety things to talk about. One would be something in the line of, hey, and right there on every fender, you'll see them is the crash zones. Hey, this is the crash zones. This is designed if it takes a front impact, not to hurt the passengers. This is designed to crumple, take, X amount of force away from the cab. And whatever your particular car is, you'll learn what that is. But and also the hood has got crumple zones in it too. It keeps it from being dangerous thing. If it breaks loose, it's not coming. It's going to break like an accordion. It's going to collapse like an accordion, taking all that pressure off the cab. Now, I wouldn't overkill them with the safety stuff because you don't know. That may not be their main thing, but you do want to mention it because, and you'll see reoccurring as we go through this car and we go through the sides of it. I'm going to keep mentioning one thing about safety everywhere we go because in the back of their mind, everybody likes safety. They like safety and security. So that's one of those little things that you can slide in there and like you can just kind of plant that seed. And hopefully, when we get to the end, this is going to help you get the money for the car. All right, so a couple little highlights under the hood. Every car out there, every manufacturer highlights all of the fluid fills. So pretty much you can always use that as pretty much if you're new and don't know anything else, you can be like, hey, everything in here that needs to be serviced has got a yellow lid on it or a red lid or whatever your manufacturer's using, usually yellow. And you could be over and be like, hey, this is how you check the oil. Boom, boom, boom. Don't spend a lot of time on it, just a few seconds. And then what's going to be really smart about this is if you get into it, you're going to want to stop around the timing chain. Now, this is why I'm telling you, you got to have a little education because people don't really understand even really what timing chains do. Most people don't even care. They just know that it's expensive and they know they don't want to deal with it and it's a major headache. So it's better to handle this objection one way or the other while you're under the hood right there. I can't tell you how many times when I was younger that I would sell a car and they'd be like, "Oh, it's got a timing belt. I don't want it. I only want one with a chain." Or a guy'd be like, "Oh, a chain's too expensive," and I didn't really know how to overcome the objection. Well, here's how you do it. Because once you get into selling cars, this will become relevant, especially on new cars. So if it's a timing chain, you can be like, "Hey, the good news about this car, there's always good news about everything." So the good news is, if you've got a timing chain, is it's designed to last for the life of the car, so it should never be an issue, sir. Period. Okay, and it really shouldn't be, which is awesome. And most people like that. They'll be like, oh, "Okay, that's cool. You can make it kind of sound like it's more value. It's a little better," and people like that. So, what about when a car has auto buff? I'm going to get to that on the test drive because that's a very complex question. But the longer, the better. So anyway, the long story short of this is when he gets to the timing belt, you want to say, "Hey, listen, the timing belt is cool um, because it's very inexpensive. You can fix these for less than $100, or the parts are usually less than $100, and they usually are. And the tensioner and everything's usually like $70 or $80 on a timing belt, and it's a pretty simple job. You just pop open a cover, anybody can do it, and that's how you overcome the timing belt. And people usually, once you set them at ease about the cost of doing it, they're better. They're good to go. All right, you can usually get by with maybe a couple compliments on the front of the car if it's got a pretty front end. Use some buzzwords like monochrome. If the bumpers match and they're painted to the car, you can just say they're like monochromatic, which is basically it's the matching color. But it sounds good. These little things build value. People want to be sold. They want to know that you're not just taking their money. Like they want to feel like they're getting something. Because as soon as you teach them all this stuff, and they're dealing with their parents or their friends next week, they're going to be quoting you. They're going to be like, "Oh yeah, I got the one with the monochromatic bumpers. I got this. I got that. It's got the crumple zones. Yeah, I got the timing belt because the timing belt's cheap and easy to fix, unlike timing chains, which are really expensive and time and labor intensive." So people listen to you, and they will. If you will build value, they're going to take that value and they're going to soak it in. But you can't spend a long time in the hood of the car. You just got to hit it and quit it. Use in and out. So please start on the very start on the very corner of the driver's side in the very front and start working your way around to the passenger. As you walk around the car, you may point out some highlights. Let's just say the first thing you can point out is what kind of tires it's got on it, which is why you need to be educated on what you're selling and say, "Hey, these are got 60,000-mile Michelins," unless they're like 20,000-mile cars, and maybe don't point that out. Maybe you can point out the nice aluminum wheels, whatever. This is a great time. Put out the front wheel disc. Every car's got front wheel disc brakes, but they're great for stopping. Real cheap to change out. And this is just kind of as you're walking around, you're just going to be like, "Hey, you want to point out something good about the tires, either the mileage, the braking system, or the wheels." You don't need to do all three. You just need to touch on it because remember, we're just building value. We don't want this to be too overdrawn out. We just want to just kind of touch base and we've got them following you now. So they're following you around. So you don't want to slow down. As you approach the mirror, if it's got a break, one of the foldaway mirrors, you can just turn around and say, here's the cool thing about this, and just slap that mirror, and that mirror go pop. Be like, yep, it's a breakaway mirror. So if somebody ever gets close to you, you don't ever got to worry about it breaking. And guess what? You're going to make an impression like you don't even want to know. People are going to be like, did you see him slap that mirror? That mirror was like, bam. And so people are going to be just amazed that you slapped the mirror. Unless it drops out. Yes, that would be a Yugo. By the way, make sure you're selling a quality car too. Let's just go and throw that out there. Practice this before you actually do it and put it in actual real motion. Just throwing that out there. Okay, so this going around for the driver's side. Now, we don't really want to talk about any creature comforts just yet. So I'm not inviting them into the front door. I'm actually going to walk right past the passenger door, and open, if it's a rear car, if it's got rear doors in it, I'm going to open the back door and say, ma'am, sir, have a seat. This is the room. It's a great idea if you know what the actual clearance is for headspace and feet clearance is as far as the wheelbase, because people like that. They like knowing that other people are they can get in their car and be comfortable in the back seat. It's a small thing that you wouldn't think is a big deal, but it is a big deal because people care about their passengers. So definitely spend a few minutes on that. All right, sir, let me take you around. Obviously, when you're right at the rear of the car, you've got the exhaust pipe sticking out. This is a great time to plug your car manufacturer, because every manufacturer has an extended exhaust usually. The guarantee for their catalytic converters are usually 7 or 10 years. So this is, and every manufacturer does it, but this is a great time for you to say, hey, listen, not only do we have stainless steel exhaust running all the way through it, but the manufacturer warranties this for an extended period of time. Also, the structure of the car against rust or whatever the case is, any extended over the 3-year, 36,000-mile or whatever their normal warranty is, if it's over and above, you want to point that out. Don't spend a lot of time on it because people aren't that interested. It just it puts a Johnny Apple seed for it to grow. All right, moving into the trunk. You can always have fun in the trunk. When I was younger, I used to climb in them and show people that, excuse me, that you could actually fit a person in there, which people always thought that was funny. But the cool thing about it is, if all the cars today, it's the law. You've got to have a quick release in there. A lot of people don't get that, but they've seen enough movies where people are kidnapped, so they get the idea that they would like to be able to escape out of a trunk. Not that anybody, I don't even know nobody's been stuck in a trunk. Big Cliff's probably stuck someone in a trunk. Big Cliff, you ever stuck anybody in a trunk? Don't answer that question. Um, I don't think Auto Buff did. Buff, did you stick anybody in a trunk? He probably didn't. So the little breakaways there, and like in Fords, if you have a reset for like the an impact, it's a great time to point that out. They have a little button in the back. If you take a little gel that kills the fuel pump, you can reset it in the back. Any little stuff like that. If you have a full size spare tire, it's a great time. Like these little things is what makes people think that their money is going to a good place, because even though the car they just looked at may have everything you're talking about, they didn't take the 10 minutes to tell them about it. So now you have that added value that you're bringing to the table that makes them feel like, hey, there really is some value here. This guy knows what he's talking about. He knows about the warranties. He knows about the mechanics of it. He knows about the creature comforts on the inside. And as you walk them around, you may also talk about the paint. Um, everybody just always skips this, but you can always upsell someone by saying, hey, listen, don't you remember the cars that used to have the paint fade off of them every 10 minutes? And Autobuff says he has not put, Big Cliff, only the eggs. Okay, both of y'all are in the suspect list right now for putting people in the trunk. We'll put y'all in timeout for a second. But yeah, the people don't, I guess what I'm trying to tell you at the end of the day is all these little things, they just build a little bit of value in each little layer that you can get. It's kind of like planting a seed. And at the end of it, you start getting a whole field of reasons on why they need to buy from you. And that's kind of the ideal behind this whole thing that I'm telling you right now. All right, so moving into the creature features, which is Amazing. This is the way. This is where the real sell of the car happens. You put the main important driver. Doesn't matter which one. If it's the male that's driving, it's fine. Usually, I kind of make the female sit there because I usually 9 times out of 10 she's the decision maker. She is in my house anyway. So if I sit her there, then I'm going to make sure you don't leave her there. You sit there and you get her seat adjusted for. You get her you get her steering wheel adjusted for. Make sure that part is good. Make sure she's got the seatbelt understood. And for God's sakes, if you're showing a car, make sure there's gas in it. I know for your new car dealers, you can't control that as much, but get your gas ticket before you ever show them the car if you know it's bad, because people hate the wait. So whatever you can do to overcome and not have an objection would be great. But most people are pretty cool. If you do need to put gas in it and say, hey, we're going to ride down and put some gas in it so you can drive it and you can go with them, most people are pretty cool. They'd be like, all right, let's do it. So no problem on that. So the main thing that's happening right now is you get them into the driver's seat. You got the door closed. You got the AC on. We got the music. Got the seat feeling good. They're playing with the little, how the stereo works. Maybe they're playing with the navigation system. Whatever you've got them engaged in, keep them engaged there for a good 2 or 3 minutes, and say, hey, let's take this thing for a spin. You can head out and tell them exactly where to go. Head over here and go to the right, and then that's where you're at. And then just be like, let them answer it. If they say, no, I don't really want to test drive today, you're not going to sell the car. If they say for any reason they can come up with that they don't want to test drive that car, then that is a dead stone giveaway that they're not there to buy a car, or you have not sold the car yet. So this is what I always say. This is very important, so pay attention to this. If they're in the car and you're like, hey, let's head on over here for the test drive, which that's a whole nother episode. But if you're offering the test drive and they're declining, then you need to say, hey, I think I might have missed something on this car. Is there something about this car that you would change if you could that would make it a little better, or something like that? And they'll say, honestly, I don't really like this blue. I like a green, or I like a red, or I don't like a 4 door. I kind of wanted a 2 door, or because you've been doing all the talking and you're going doing all the showing. You're kind of leading the witness. So you're leading the direction of how this is going, and sometimes people are very courteous, but it'll come out when it comes time to test drive the car. So this is very important to pay attention to this particular moment, because this is the do or die moment. If they test drive the car, you just increased your chances by over 50% that they're going to buy that car today. Um, Period. So that is direct flow of your income. So I think we've done good so far. We've met and greet them, meet and greet them, did the meet and greet, whatever you want to say. Somebody please speak for me. So you do the meet and greet, got the credibility. We've got them walk down there, and we've got them in the car. We've walked around. We've talked about all the stuff that is pertinent about the car, built some interest, got them comfortable. We've now asked them to engage and go down the road, and they say no. So right now, this is part of car sales. You got to overcome objections continuously. The better you are at this, the more cars you're going to sell. So you've got to just like go put the grind to the grindstone and figure out what you did wrong, and then you just got to go through the basis of it. And that's just my theory on how to do the meet and greet. If anybody's got anything to add to that, has anybody had any experience similar to what I'm talking about when you're going to go sell the car? Um, it just seems to me like most likely, if you're this is the usually the first objection, that this is the first real objection you're going to get to in the car, is the test drive. As far as any other thing on there is, as far as the little sales pitches that you can do on the different features and stuff like that, you've got to kind of tone yourself down, because people got an attention span about this big. So just bullet point. You'll get good at certain cars that, and you'll figure out different people react. Like if they start reacting good to safety, point out the safety. If they react better to warranty stuff, which is boring, but hey, if they do, go ahead and get on it. And creature comforts, whatever you can get for their hotspot, it is. But you are going to have to move on forward from there. All right. Talk to you about warranty is another big deal. This may come up at the time. So a few of those things. This is kind of the walk around is kind of like the basic layer to the car deal. It's the beginning of the car deal. It is the beginning of you and this person kind of bonding and kind of he's like, I can usually convince myself I want to keep the car. Yes, yes, I can too. I can definitely, I can too. But anyway, so I guess that's my show for today. I'm gonna kind of, I see tomorrow. I was gonna get into the test drive a little bit, um, but I think the test drive kind of warrants its own. It's gonna have to warrant its own subject because I'll tell you what gets into the test drive tomorrow. So the test drive is very important because now we've got if you've got them driving the car, like I said, you got a 50% chance that you're going to sell the car. So when you get to the test drive, there's a whole system into the test drive that you want to kind of in place. And this right here, we're going to get over into down payment, where they see themselves in the deal. I mean, there's all kinds of little factors into the deal that's going to start happening in the test drive. So the test drive becomes very important. That's when they go from you built value to them making a commitment to purchase today. So the test drive is to me is a big deal. It's a big switch point for you, but I think the as big deal as the test drive is, I do believe that the walk around and building value is probably one of the most important key essential parts to the car deal. It always has been, it always will be, and it's always going to be the one thing people look around. I mean, I can't tell you how many car people I sit and watch, and they're like, excuse me, I don't know, it's like dry and humid. So it's like I don't know if I'm dry or humid, so I keep coughing it up. But most car people are just lazy. So I mean, you go and you're looking at something, and your family, you've been working, you want a car, you want to know these things about it. It's like, hey, you want to drive it? Is that how we do a walk around? No, that's not how you do a walk around. You want to build value in the car before you have them drive it. Because if you just have them drive it, they already know everything. They don't want it. I mean, they're not going to sit and listen to you talk about it after they drove it. Um, and a lot of people jump that process because they think that, hey, well, if they like it, they like it. If they don't, then screw it. People are smart enough to make the decision themselves. Of course, people are smart enough to make decisions themselves. That's not what this is about. This is about giving them enough information to where they would give you a serious consideration to spend their money. So it's not about that they're not smart enough to know all this stuff. It's they shouldn't have to know all this stuff because you're the one selling the product. You should make them aware of what's going on. That's just my take on that. Also, this is where this is where a lot of human interaction helps too. If you're very nice to people during this process of the walk around, and it's a lot of yes sirs, no ma'am, let me get that for you, let me open this up. People start liking you, and when people start liking you, you're going to start getting closer to making money. That's another big deal of this because you're it's kind of like you have them captive there for just a moment and they're paying attention to you, and everything you say is gospel because they have never heard this before. They're drinking it in like a sponge. And so as long as you can keep them engaged, you're going to keep them on the hook. I say that's a terrible way to put it. You're going to keep them wanting to potentially buy the car by keeping their mind engaged and keep building value. And you got to keep the flow moving to keep them interested. So, that's what I'm saying. Start with the hood, bam, hit the back, the fender. Fender would be the tire, brake, whatever. Jump straight to the back seat, trunk, walk around, park them up inside the touch base on the paint, stick them in the driver's seat. Shouldn't take you more than about 15 minutes tops, maybe 10 minutes if you're really good. If you're dealing with a really small car, you could probably. I like that I can get some use of the car before I sell it. True that, my man. True that. Um, yeah. So this is what this today was about, and I really wanted to just kind of bring that home to you because a lot of people are sitting on these car lots or dealerships or they're in business for themselves, and they're missing the real connection to that consumer, and they're really missing the real point of the walk around because they just don't get it in their mind on I guess whatever you are selling them on must work as you say. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, if you're going to be selling used cars, this is a completely different scenario. where I'm addressing right now is the new car sales, because we know with new car, well, we hope with new cars that everything's working good and there isn't any problems, although that's not always the case. We hope that that's the case. You usually don't have to overcome like dirty cars and ABS lights and check engine lights and all this craziness. So a walk around on a used car is something a little different. And let me tell you how I would do that. So a used car, you got to be careful. You can't talk about other cars that are better than your car, because then there are people are going to be like, oh, you know what? You're right. The other Mazda does have that. I think I want to go find one of them. No, wrong answer. So when you do a walk around on a used car, you pop the hood, no problem. Hey, look how clean the oil is. Excuse me. I'm going to eventually get enough. I don't know. So you talk about how clean the oil is. You talk about some of the stuff, how nice the engine is, how well put together it is, how nice it sounds. Like, we're building value based on longevity of the engine at this point. You could make some simple point of the you can make some type of simple point of its safety system, but I would spend the majority of the time in a used car talking about how good it is. That's what I would be doing. I would not waste a whole lot of time in the other the yeah. I deal in ultra cheap or fast sales. Hey, nothing wrong with that, my man. But I've done them all. Like, in late models, we deal with. Sometimes we're dealing with 2018s, 2017, 16s. It doesn't matter. Um, those aren't as hard to sell, but I'm okay. So we're talking like Buff here. So Buff is going to pop open a car that's 10 years old or 15 years old. I would say sit on that hood and be like, hey, you can tell that this vehicle was really taken care of well. Point out there's no oil leaks, right? Hope there's no oil leaks. Um, Point out a few of the positives on the front. When you go to do the walk around on the car, you still want to have the same, your goal is still going to be the same, to get them into the driver's seat and go for the test drive. But you may point out a few things that are more maintenance related rather than buzzy stuff. Like, hey, look, the brakes were just done. Instead of it has disc brakes, they were just done. Instead of, hey, it has 80,000 mile tires on it, or the real nice wheels, you could be like, hey, the tires only got a couple years on them. Same thing when you're walking around talking about the paint. The paint's been well taken care of. When you open the back door, you might comment on how nice the interior still is. There's no smells. There's no this, hopefully. Um, yeah, it could be that you're hiding something for sure. So, long story short, used cars changes in a way that you're trying to build value that the car is going to last. So that's where most people would flip the switch. On new cars, you're trying to build a dream. People are usually in love. They smell it. That's what they want. That's a completely different customer than the one buying a used car. The one buying a used car generally is not going to be in love with the car. They might like it, but they're not going to be in love with it like a guy buying a new car, because they're basically looking to fill a transportation need, or they're working off of a budget or something along that line. So now we have to overcome objections like, is this a piece of crap? No, sir, this is not a piece of junk. Yes, sir, we can give you an extended warranty. Yes, this is the point checks that we've took on it. So all these little T's to cross, I's to dot, all that good stuff is very important on used cars. Some of the easiest used cars to sell would be like something that was like a former certified Lexus or certified Ford, or if you ever get into those used cars that were certified at some point, that's always a great sale value. And if you are willing on and a walk around, this is where you would say, if you want a mechanic to check it out, this is the point to do it, because you don't want to get in negotiations and then take it to a mechanic. So you want to overcome the mechanic thing. How I usually overcome the mechanic thing, because mechanics will screw you, and they don't. I don't even think they intend to, but they always find little stupid stuff that really isn't quote. It's like, yeah, you probably should fix that crack in that piece of plastic right there, but it doesn't really affect anything, whether it's 10 years or 20 years from now. But it is technically broke, or it's got a crack in it, and it just puts a cast of doubt between you and the consumer. So most people that say they want to look at a mechanic or check it out, I encourage them to, but I don't pay them much attention, because they're usually like they're usually so scared to make a decision that the other person, third parties, will be making a decision for them. So I kind of steer away from people that are like have to have third parties make up their mind. I'm just funny like that. Um, Yeah, well, you know what? You can be honest, Cliff. I mean, you got to be straightforward because the guy, if you're hiding something, they're going to find out about it. They're going to find out about it in an hour or 2 hours from now. If you're going to try to conceal something like a head gasket or a bad transmission, you put some crap in it. I mean, you don't think that people are going to be knocking on your door like an hour later? Of course they will. People are real funny about used cars. Like they act like you're your best friend right off the bat, but if the smallest little, I mean, the most minor little thing happens, they will call you every name in the book and try to act like you try to take advantage. I had one not too long ago on a BMW, and it had the spring on the accelerator. They drove it 70 miles down the road, and the spring on the accelerator cable broke. Okay, car's running fine, but they can only idle because it's missing the spring. So whatever. So this woman's like, I'm gonna sue you. I'm like, first, no, you're not. Second, why? You just bought a car that was for basically nothing. It was just a wholesale piece we junked or got rid of, and it was just like, what in the world are these people thinking? I mean, she's got a perfectly running car. I mean, once a little small things will happen to a car. So when you start getting into people that are just, that are trying to mini pick stuff on used cars, sometimes I'm not saying they're not worth it, to go through and try to get the deal. But honestly, if you showed up to me tomorrow and you're like, um, right now I've got a 14, I guess it's a Corolla. Is it a CE, LE, whatever? Anyway, it's got like 46,000 miles on it, I think. I can't remember. So anyway, I had a lady on that thing. It is a perfectly good car. I mean, it's nice. It qualifies. It's a great car. And she's like, I want my mechanic to check it out, and then I'm gonna, can you certify that this has not been in an accident? Can you certify this? Can you certify that? Can you certify this? And here's my answer. Ma'am, here's a car. If you would like to make a decision on whether you want this car or not, by all means, do whatever you need to. But for God's sakes, leave me out of the conversation. I mean, it's here because I trust the car and I believe in it. I didn't see any reason. The Carfax is clean. But hell, I haven't been around the car since the day it was made. So, I mean, I can't guarantee you with the rest of my life what this car is. And that's what a lot of these people do. There is customers out there that are real good at just trying to milk you for every dime they can get out of you. And there's other customers that are really good people. They're like, you got to treat everybody right and fair, even though they might get on your nerves. But sometimes I just ignore those people. And the other people I ignore, while we're on people that we ignore, if someone ever shows up in the dealership and they're like, does anyone here want to sell a car? Nope, I don't want to sell you a car. Does anybody here want to sell them a car? Nope, none of us want to sell them a car. People that come in there being braggadocious about or trying to act as if they're somehow above you by approaching you with money generally don't have any. So that just seems to be the rule of thumb. And I don't know why that is, but it just some seems to be. So if you ever want to clear out a sales place, you don't want people to bug you, all you have to do is walk in there and say, hey, I hope somebody wants to sell something today, because then everybody in there is going to be like, "Oh my god, just leave me alone," whatever. They'll run from you. So that's another customer I don't like. Not that it has anything to do with what we're dealing with today. Um. Okay. So it's missing a dust cap. Yes, exactly. My reply is usually that's why it's cheap as it is. Yeah, if you have a good car and they're a serious buyer, I would take it to me. No, I'm not saying don't let them take it to a mechanic. I'm just saying if you're going to let them take it to the mechanic, let them take it to you in that period of time before you start negotiations. Because if you let them take it afterwards, they're going to have cold feet. There's going to be all kinds of little scenarios that get involved that hey, I don't really like that payment. It's 300. It's too much. But when people are in closing, when you bring them into the office, they got to be ready to buy the car. Everything's got to be done before then. Now, I will let people take a car to a mechanic. And usually I just throw the dice 50-50, and I got a full shop. I mean, obviously I know whether the car is bad or good, or if, occasionally if it does need, like somebody could say, okay, I think your car is going to need brakes pretty soon. Okay, well, that doesn't really work. It's either down to the wear marks or it's not. I mean, I get it. Your brakes are wearing, but if you put that cast of doubt in someone's mind, you just ruin the deal. I mean, that's what happens. So the people come back and they're like, "Oh, well, how much would it do if I had to have you do these brakes, Mister Mechanic?" Oh, well, let me hit you at full retail. That's going to be about $1,000 for a set of brake pads all the way around. And while you're at it, of course, it has 60,000 miles on it. I would go ahead and upgrade and do your disc as well. Well, all right. So how much is that, Mr. Mechanic? Oh, well, I can do it all for you. Labor, few shop things. I'll do it all for you for $1,200. Okay. Now we all know anybody watching this video, here's what's going to happen. They come back. They're like, hey, everything was good except we need $1,200 worth of brakes. So what can we do about that? Well, if that's what they're feeling, that's okay. Just get another objection. Where I told you about coming over objection. So you just insource the brakes. I mean, what does it cost to do a brake job? Let's be realistically here. You can get a set of pads for any car on the planet for 25 or $30, period. And less than 45 minutes of labor time for both wheels. So and what are the rotors going to cost you? Another $40 or $50 a pop. So I mean, you can overcome it. Hey, if I do the brakes for you, can we earn a business? So there's a way around it. But I tend to get if the people are like real sketchy and they're real, they just have to have a third party make the decision for them. Hey, I got to see what my mechanic says if this is a good car and blah blah blah. I get that you need an okay if the car is okay, but you'll see what I'm talking about when you get in there. There's just certain types of audiences that you just don't want. I mean, period. Um, and then that gets into another rabbit hole, which I shouldn't be getting into because this is completely off subject. But if you get into people that are typically somebody that's always trying to get something for nothing, and they try to do it with the car deal up front. I'm not talking about somebody honestly trying to get a deal, but I'm just like people that are just trying to they're just really chintzy and they're really just trying to just get your car for nothing. That's going to be the guy that leaves and calls you back and wants more, and then calls you back the next week and wants something else, and then wants something, 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 something. Which is why I always say, even though it's hard to do, mechanics always going to nitpick it for sure. So this is why I always say, if you're going to sell a car, make enough money on it to make it worth your while. Even though you're desperate, even though you want to sell the car, whatever, always go with that rule of thumb. Make as much money as you possibly can because you don't know what you're going to live with the next week or the week after. And if you sold 10 cars at $1,500 a pop, it makes you replacing a fuel pump a lot easier, but you can't really ruin your reputation over a fuel pump that went out 2 or 3 days after someone bought a car. Or you gotta live with the punches. So you just got to make money to make it worth it. If you're doing bad business where you sell the car for nothing and something happens to the car and you can't pay to fix it without losing even more money, it's just bad business. And the person that you gave a deal to is not going to care anyway. He's just going to laugh about it. Yes, those are called bad buyers for sure. And you know what? I have given people deals. I give people deals all the time, actually. Not ridiculously good deals, but decent deals because they're them because they're previous customers. They have you have a little rapport with them. They're good people. You're good people. Yeah, okay, whatever. But some of these people that are just like they just want everything for nothing. You just gotta pass on, man. You just gotta let them go. I mean, if they're just a nauseating, just pain in the butt, just every little thing like they want to call you out on, like, oh well, how do I know you ain't lying to me? Or if they want to talk to you in that level and they're not really professional in what they're doing, man, just let them walk. You ain't lost nothing. Get another customer. That's what I say. Let the tote the no guy down the street handle it, or let the new guy somewhere else deal with that customer. Because at the end of the day, your time's money. It always will be. And the longer these people take up your time for you to make nothing, you're just losing money on something else. That's my overall view of the whole thing, for whatever that's worth. The bigger the discount, worse the buyers. Yes, and another rule of thumb: if you sell to family, make at least $4,000. Did you hear me? If you sell into a family member, make at least $4,000. If it's a real close family member, make it 5,000 because you will never outlive the pain in the butt, which is your family member that bought a car. Period. In the story. So friends and family, they pay twice as much as everybody else. And Autobuff's telling you, yep. Hey, chummy, you got a bargain from you, so I want one too. Yeah, I'll give you hey, Cliff, we're kind of friends right now. That means I'm gonna have to charge you the 4 or 5 grand. Buff might let you have it for 3 grand or 4 grand. A forever warranty. Yeah, that's it. The problems never go away, guys. They just live with you and haunt you, live with you and haunt you, live with you and haunt you. Remember, you're just there to do business. You don't want to marry them. You don't want to be with them for the rest of your life. Yeah, you want a good reputation. You will sell clean cars. But there's a point where they need to have their own responsibility and take care of their own stuff. Period. 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 Um, Cliff said no problem. He's going to let us. Hey, Buff, how much are you going to charge Cliff? Are you charging him the $3,000 brother-in-law price? Because I was going to charge him the $5,000 uncle price. I have to give you a body part. Yeah. Hey, we'll finance them. We'll finance Big Cliff. We're going to finance you. You're going to get your own auto. Me and Buff, we're going to get together and we're going to give you a car deal that you can't live without. We're gonna finance you. We're going to lot finance you a nice little convertible to drive around the island with. It's going to be great. Don't worry about nothing. You just send us a check every month. Yeah, and so you're right, man. So another wife. Hey, whoa. Well, you know what? I guess Cliff, if you could put your wife in the ad and 500 down and take over payments and get you a new one, that's what I always tell mine. But I don't always tell her that. She actually heard me say that one time, and actually, you could have cut steel with the glare I got. So I don't actually say that anymore with her around. But I thought that was pretty funny. I was going to put 500 down to take over payments, but she did not think that was funny at all. So we're going to stay away from getting you another wife, Big Cliff. You're on your own on that one. We don't solve love problems. Well, we were a couple episodes ago. I'm safe till she gets home. Me too. All right, guys. So I guess that'll wrap it up today. I guess tomorrow we're going to get into the test drives and the things that can happen in a test drive, which is very important for a couple different aspects. There's a real life application to the test drives. This is where you can go a couple different scenarios with them, but this is where you're starting to prep them for closing them. You're starting the closing process and the test drive. So this is what's important. Once you got them rolling, now we're getting a car deal going. So this is a big deal and something that you're going to want to tune into tomorrow. If nothing else, you can have us entertain it. Barter on Craigslist. You guys are good. Man, if Jen ever catches this live show, man, I am done. Y'all understand the car man's career is over. I mean, she will take this. Y'all don't even want to know where you're gonna find this laptop at. Y'all don't even want to know. That woman is crazy. So I'm gonna tell y'all. Um, Hi, new to your channel. Question for you. When I say we have an implied warranty, do you have that as well? Okay, that's a pretty good question. That's a whole other subject, but it's a great question. So the answer to that is every used car, this is used car. Every used car should have a federal as this is coming from a dealer. If it comes from a dealer, it's as is, no warranty, federal disclosure. You have to have that signed, period. And if there is a warranty, you need to check the warranty box and you've got to state the warranty, which would be factory warranty or whatever warranty you as a dealer is going to be willing to offer, but that is federal. Like, period. All the states have to comply in the same direction. Now, implied warranty, because of the federal statutes of as is no warranty, that's going to supersede anything. So there's no such thing as there is no such thing as implied warranty in the state of Virginia. So you're I take that back. If you say, all right, I will fix this for you, or you take something and fix it after they purchase the car, then you're going to have to warranty that. Generally, how that works. That would be a case of implied warranty. But as far as just you sold something, what state are you in and what's their actual law? I'd be curious to see that because the state or the federal as is no warranty disclosure is going to kill it. It's going to supersede everything. Sight on scene, yeah. So the basic rule that they have to tell you, Arizona. So you're telling me that Arizona has an implied warranty on a used car. In other words, if you don't, as a private seller, you're given some type of warranty, or do they have that outside of the state? 15-day or 500 miles. Okay, is that for dealers or private individuals? Be curious to know that. Oh, for a used dealer. Yeah, okay. So some states do give a statute for that. But that would be on the as is warranty. They'd have to check warranty, I guess, to comply with state law for 15 days or 500 miles. I'm sure it's probably like a loose drivetrain, powertrain, something along that line. Probably engine, transmission. I'm sure it doesn't counter like ACs, and it's probably very specific for what that is. But no, our state doesn't. As far as I know, New York is dependent on mileage at sale. Okay, so if it's over a certain mileage, um, I'm sure you're off the loop. If it's under a certain mileage, they're going to make you stand behind it for a little bit. That probably makes sense. Yeah, so, well, Virginia has nothing, so we don't have anything. Florida doesn't have anything. I don't think North Carolina does either. Matter of fact, the only state New York is one of them strange states. Like they don't let you really charge a dealer prep fee past a certain amount. Like I was at Lockport, New York, at a Chrysler store, and I was really surprised. They had their dealer prep fee was like I want to say $50 because the state doesn't allow them to charge it. So New York is a very heavily regulated state, so it doesn't surprise me. Um, Okay, over 100,000 it is as is. Okay, which that makes sense. So underneath it, they have I guess, probably a progressive warranty, I guess, for whatever the state sees available. And apparently that's what's going on in Arizona too. Anybody watching from California? I bet California has something like that too. I'd be interested to know that because California is a really heavily regulated state, so it wouldn't surprise me if they did. Um, but anyway, yeah. So yeah, I mean that's just part of it. I guess they'll go your individual when you get your individual dealer license, they're gonna cover all the little stuff that you were supposed to handle or do or whatever the case is. All right, guys. Well, we kind of got off the beaten path again, but it is a daily show. It's our little talk show of car stuff. So tomorrow, if you want to tune in, we're going to be talking about, like I said, the test drive. I think this is going to be a good one. Because the test drive, you can get lazy on test drives. Let me tell you what happens. If you get busy, you tend to throw people keys and be like, drive this, tell me if you like it. And then if hey, no problem, guys. It's hilarious. The I love y'all's I love your stuff on there. That's pretty funny. I'll bring my helmet. He's gonna Oh my god, y'all guys are gonna be trouble. All right, man. You know what? We're coming from the RVA. Peace, love. Shop you some Amazon. Go to one of my videos and hit you some Amazon. Go buy your wife something that you should be getting in trouble with. Whatever. I don't care what you buy. Just buy something on Amazon. And I'm out of here till tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And we're gonna talk about a test drive and not the bus y'all are running me over with right now. I'm gonna let you go. Peace out, my fellas. We'll see you on the next time.